All right, welcome to Chapter 10, Section 2, called Linear Measure. So this is for Integrated Math 1 or IM1. A couple things you're going to see on your screen before you get started here. The first thing should be a due date. I don't see that on my teacher preview, but you will see it on your student screen. The second thing is the number of attempts. You always have unlimited attempts on homework, tests, and quizzes. The number of questions just lets you know how many questions are on this particular assignment. Grading policy is always best score, so whichever attempt is the best one is the one you get to keep. And partial credit is enabled, so if you answer one of 4 questions correctly, then you get credit for the one question, or however many you answered correctly. I believe it might actually also be partial credit within multi-step questions too. So down here it says, please remember once you start your homework, you must finish it before you can work on anything else. What that means is once I click start, in order to finish my homework, down here in the bottom right corner, there's going to be a submit assignment button. I know it's not here on my teacher preview, but it will be on your student screen. This is how you finish an assignment, by clicking this button. So you always want to click that button when you're ready to leave this screen. Whether you've started any of these or just a couple of them, we always click submit assignment for 2 big reasons. Number 1, like that last screen said, you can't work on anything else. Alex is going to lock you out of all of your other assignments. If you simply just close this tab or close your computer, it's going to assume you want to leave this attempt open. And it's going to lock everything else until you come back to this one, including resources. So remember, you have unlimited attempts. It's also quick retakes, meaning if you've already started some of these, you have a green check mark, it's going to save your progress. So you're not starting over. So make sure you click that button so you don't get locked out of everything. The second big reason is it affects the grade book. So until you click that button, your account's basically frozen. Us teachers don't get to see what you've been working on. So just make sure you click that button so that, we can see those 2 big things happening. And on the side here, we have explanation, example, and message center. So explanation tells us that we're going to lose our current question attempt because it's going to give us the answer to this question. So it's not going to give you the answer and let you come type it in. Example just shows you exactly kind of what it wants you to do. So it's showing you that you're going to use the ruler here and you're going to do the nearest inch on this one. So we're kind of rounding a bit on this. We're not doing very exact measurements. You can open another example if you'd like to see one. And you can also message your teacher directly from the screen. It attaches a picture, so we know where to come help you. All right, let's go ahead and get started here. So for this one, it says, use the Alex ruler to find the length of the toothpick. And I know if you were doing this in class, we put paper rulers in the SRGs, so you can just kind of fold them in half and use those as well. Or, a lot of the classrooms have a whole set of rulers that you could use if you're measuring this on paper. If you're doing it for the Alex program, definitely do it with the Alex ruler to make sure that you get the correct measurements that it's looking for. So I click on the little ruler here and I pull it over, and I want to make sure when I click that 0, do you see how the 0 all the way on the left there? I'm going to click so that it's starting right here at the beginning of the toothpick. So I don't want to click in a way, like I don't want to click here, or even I've seen students do this where they line up the end of the ruler. Well, 0 starts right here. So make sure you're paying attention to where you start. 0 should start right there at the beginning of the toothpick. So on the dotted line is basically, that's where 0 should be. All right, so I'm going to come over here and it wants me to go to the nearest inch. So I can see the end point here is between 3 and 4. So I want to know which one is it closer to. So is it closer to 4 or closer to 3? Well, I can visually see that's much closer to 4 inches than 3 inches. If we're at the halfway mark, we round up. If we're not at the halfway mark for the inch, we round down. So it's kind of just a quick rounding lesson there. All right, we're going to do the next one, which I believe is another ruler one. So now we're going to round, we're going to measure to the nearest centimeter. So when I grab this ruler, it already says centimeters on it. If you're using the one from the notes page, centimeters was on one side and millimeters was on the other side. So I can see this says cm, which is centimeter. So you want to make sure you're using the correct measurement too, based on what it is it's asking you to do. So I placed my 0 right here at the beginning, and I'm going to go all the way to the end here, so I can see the end point is between 10 and 11, and it's definitely closer to 11 there. So we can go 11, and check. All right, next. I think we have one more of these measuring guys, and it's to the nearest millimeter. So again, I'm going to place that on the 0, 0 here, or the 0, not 0, 0, the 0, so right there in the dotted line, and I can see, does that say That says centimeters still. Well, let's see if it'll let me do this. It might make me convert that. Interesting, because that's not millimeters, that's centimeters. So this is between 7 and 8. It's definitely closer to 8, but I wonder, is it going to make me... It is, all right. So I'm going to say it's not just a typo there. So what it's doing is it's showing you the centimeters here, and then it's falling in between 8 and 9, so they're rounding down to 8 because it's closer. It's not quite at the halfway mark. So the length is 8 centimeters and 4 millimeters. This is the same as 84 millimeters. So they went 8 and 4, and so we multiply that by 10. So instead of 8.4, it's 84. So they're making us do a little conversion here. Interesting. So it's, they actually want me to be a little bit more specific on this one. So this one would be 7, and let's see. Because they're being very specific on that. So I need to make sure I line my 0 up really nicely. There we go. So it's going to be 7. Here's the 5 mark right here in the middle. 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm thinking it's actually going to be 80 or 78 because it's at the 7 centimeters, and then there's 8 little tick marks, which means 8/10. So it would be 7.8 centimeters, but millimeters I'm going to multiply by 10, so it's 78. So now let's check. All right, so it's being very specific on that one. So let's see. Last one here. So the last piece, we're actually going to get into segment additions. This is just the introduction to segment addition. So just like we were looking, for those last 3 pieces, we can measure anything we want. We kind of look at it as a line. We're actually measuring a line across an object. So you can picture, a pencil across this, or that, like the popsicle stick, I think was one of the ones we had, or a toothpick. Whatever it is you want to picture going kind of across here, it's, perfectly fine. But the main thing we want to do is pay attention to the fact that it's broken up into 2 pieces. So we have A, B, C. So I have this longer piece. That went a little too far there. There we go. And then I have this shorter piece here. So I have AB and I have BC. But I also have the entire segment. So I kind of have 3 pieces that I can look at. And they are related to each other. They're all on one segment. Or they are one segment, right? So I can divide this up into pieces. But if I cut this guy in half, and I can kind of do my little silly lasso thing too, like this, and copy paste. Why isn't it working? Why isn't it working? Well, darn it. But I pulled it away here, So by moving it, I didn't change the length of it. I can move it around. It's still BC. It's still the same length, and I can then put it back. So I didn't change anything about it. I just kind of chopped it away. But it's still the same length when I put it back there. So usually I can copy and paste it, and then it won't take it away. But for some reason, my program's not letting me copy and paste. So when we're looking at segment addition, what we want to do is pay attention to the ideas. I can separate the segments. I do the 2 smaller ones. Or I can look at the whole thing. And if I'm looking at the whole thing, if I want to add it back together, I can simply just add the 2 smaller pieces together to get the whole thing. Or if I have the whole thing and one of the smaller ones, I can subtract to figure out what's left over for this smaller piece. So I can kind of fill in some blanks here if I know some information. So they are giving me information. AB is 9. So that's this little segment here, right, is 9. So I'll fill it in on the little segment. AB is 9. And then AC, which is the whole thing, is 12. So the entire thing is 12. This is 9. And they say find BC. I want to find this missing piece. Well, if the whole thing is 12, and this is taking up 9 of that, and I don't know what unit this is. We're just, saying 9 and 12. It doesn't tell me if it's centimeters or inches, or, whatever unit it would be. So we simply just want to say, well, what's left over? If the whole thing is 12 and this is 9, well, that would mean that 3 is left over because 9 plus 3 is 12. So I just simply, you know, take a look at it and go, okay, well, what's, oops, not 0.3, 3. So what's left over? All right, so that was section 2. I will see you in section 3.